Hello, I'm Raina. This is my channel, The Furniture Fix. And this week I'm going to be fixing this cubicle desk situation into a regular desk. This was a special request from my mom. She'll be using it to put her sewing machine on and using the drawers to house all her sewing notions. So nothing crazy going on here. We're just turning this crazy looking desk into a functional desk for my mom. As with each and every piece that I work on, the first step is always to clean with a degreaser. I'm using crud cutter and just giving it a good wipe down. Unfortunately, I did not take a video of when I actually chopped the desk in half, but I did it with the circular saw, and now I'm taking this multi-tool and trying to clean up these edges a bit. It was not easy. And now I'm just cleaning the top of it with the crud cutter, just making sure I got every little nook and cranny cleaned up, degreased, and ready to go. Here's a little bit more of me trying to even out that top. It's a little rough, but this is the first time I've ever cut something in half, so I just need to smooth it out as best as I can. I used the multi-tool, went all the way around, and now I'm using what I believe is the 80 grit sandpaper just to try to smooth everything down. So I'll definitely be going through the 80 grit, the 100 grit to the 120 before I go ahead and fill all the uneven patches, any gaps or nicks that I might have. This is the JB Weld Wood Restore Epoxy Putty. This is a really great one to use. It comes with the liquid hardener, which you will add to the amount of putty that you wish to use. I recommend working in small batches because the more hardener you use, the faster it will harden. So you need to work really fast with this product, especially if you live in hotter climates like I do. It dries up super quick, even if I put a little bit of hardener on there. So you just gotta play with the ratios, and you just wanna put that hardener next to it. And what I usually do is take a popsicle stick and just mix that until the color is mixed in and it's all the same color. That's when you know you're ready to use. And like I said, just keep in mind that it has very little work time, so you need to have a plan before you mix this up, know exactly where you're going to apply it and smooth it out as quickly as you can. The best thing to do is apply it in thin layers, especially if you have big gaps, because this way it'll dry a little faster, so you'll be able to go back in and work on it with your sander to get it smooth. And in some cases you may have to go in and do a second or even a third application. And I just want to apologize for not taking better video of what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go how to videotape as I'm going. Sometimes I get in the zone and I forget that I need some better angles so that I can show you guys. So here we have the drawers. They are pretty dirty. So I'm gonna take my shop vac and just give them a really good cleaning and then a wipe down inside. I'm not gonna do too much on the insides. I mean, they look pretty good. So it's just a clean up for the insides of the box. I like to line my drawers, but in this case, because it has the paneling inside, I think it is going to look really good, give it that rustic feel. You always want to go ahead and remove any hardware that you have on your pieces, just because it's going to allow you to get in there and clean behind there. I will be reusing these handles because they're super rustic. My mom's decor at her house is very rustic. Here you can see that this is a solid wood drawer front. The way you can tell is from the grains. It follows it even off to the side there. It doesn't change grain. So that's a good telltale sign that you're dealing with real wood versus a veneer. I'm going to end up staining the drawers, and so I'm starting off with 100 grit, moving on to 120, and then finishing off with 180 so that the stain absorbs really nice. Now it's time to sand off all that wood restore putty. It's nice and hard, so now I can go in with about a 180, and I can go up a little more if it's not coming off, but this stuff sands really smooth. So don't forget to wear your dust mask while doing this. Now it's time to scuff sand the piece so that it takes the primer and paint really good. It just gives it a little bit of tooth so everything adheres nicely, and in the end it's gonna come out real nice and smooth for you. Don't skip this step. Even if you have the paint that says that you don't have to sand, I definitely recommend doing this because it's just gonna make your piece look so nice in the end. Now we definitely want to get all that dust off of there. We're getting ready to prime this piece, so we don't want any extra dust nibs. I'll definitely be taking a lint-free cloth, just get it damp, and then finish wiping down all that dust just to make sure that I got it all. And here comes my supervisor, Cosmo, making sure I've got all the dust off there. All right, it's time to set up my Wagner pop-up paint tent. And I'm just showing here that you can definitely do this by yourself. And if you have a four-legged helper, that makes everything go a little faster too. But this is really great if you don't have a large space in your garage that you can drape off and paint in there. This is nice because I just pull it off into the driveway and I'm able to paint. Now I'm getting my strainer, getting ready to put the primer into my paint can. I like to use these strainers because it keeps any debris from getting the gun clogged, because if you've ever had a spray gun with a clogged nozzle, you've just ruined your piece. You've added more work to yourself. So just do the extra step here and strain your paint. What I'm doing here is just putting a little bit of water to thin out that primer. That's going to help it flow through the nozzle really smoothly. Don't forget to set up your straw and your nozzle to be aligned with each other so that when you're spraying your primer or paint, it's sucking it up efficiently and you don't get any splatters on your piece. Now here I'm using the Wagner Flexio 5000. Now before I spray my piece, I always test it out on a piece of cardboard just so that I can get the flow right where I need it so that I don't make mistakes on the piece and have to wait for that to dry, sand it, and start over. Sometimes you're going to find that you need to reopen the can and water it down a little more, or if it's too thin, you're going to need to add more primer or paint. And then once you've got your settings like you want, you can start spraying the piece. You want to overlap about 50% each time that you are spraying back and forth or up and down. You definitely want to do the overlap. It's just going to give you really nice coverage throughout. And just a friendly reminder, always wear your respirator when you're spraying. You do not want to get the aerosols that are coming off of the paint gun into your lungs. It's just gonna protect your lungs, and it's just a good practice to do, especially when you're painting in an enclosed environment like this, because all of that's just gonna go right into your lungs. Now that I think about it, I should probably be wearing goggles also, because that is a lot of spray dust coming at me. Something that I recommend doing and that I try to do in all my pieces is to clean up some of those gaps around the piece with some of this caulk in a tube. It will really enhance the final look. I usually do this between my first and second coat of primer, just so that I can really see all the areas that need to be filled in. Because when you prime your piece, you're gonna find that you are seeing things that you didn't see before, like bigger gaps between the seams or nicks or little divots that you didn't see before. The primer is definitely gonna showcase those. So after I've caulked all the bigger seams and any other cracks or divots that I need to fill in, I'll go in with a 220 grit and sand the piece and get it ready for the second coat of primer. Definitely want to get all that dust off and get it ready for that second coat. So here we go with round 2 of primer, and you'll start to notice that everything is looking smoother now, and most likely you just need the 2 coats of primer. That usually does a trick before you're ready for your paint. And now we're ready to paint. I'm using the Heirloom Traditions all-in-one paint. Even though it says it's all-in-one, I still primer, I still sand between coats, and I also apply a top coat. You can trust this for being an all-in-one, but since this piece is not going to stay in my home, it's going to someone else's home, I want to make sure that the durability is there. So I'm still going to do all the processes to make sure that this is a piece that'll last for many years in someone's home. And here you can see I'm just going to put a little water just to thin it out. Now you can use a viscosity cup, which I used to do, but because I've used this paint several times, I can kind of eyeball it and see the consistency and kind of get it to where it needs to be to flow out of the sprayer really nicely. You'll just have to practice with trial and error. You can always add more water or add more paint depending on how thin or thick it ends up being. Now we get to paint. So here I'm adjusting the spray nozzle because sometimes the skinny areas can be a little tricky. You don't want to just have so much paint coming out and it just spraying all over the place. You kind of want to adjust the nozzle to where it's at its most narrow setting. And that's just something that you'll have to play around with whatever sprayer that you end up using. Here you can see that I'm overlapping my last pass by 50% or so. This is going to ensure that I get really good coverage, and hopefully I'll only need to do that second coat before my project is ready for its top coat. After 2 coats of paint, I'm ready to top coat the piece. I love using the General Finishes High Performance in Satin. That is my go-to top coat. The durability on this is phenomenal and it looks amazing when it's all done. Now I like to leave a little bit of paint in my can here and I'll add the top coat to it. That way there's a seamless transition between the paint and the top coat. All right, here is the top coat going on, and don't worry, it looks lighter when you're applying it, but it dries true to whatever color you have painted your piece, especially when you add the paint and the top coat together. It will look amazing in the end. It's time to work on the handles. And for this, I'm going to use the Barkeeper's Friend. I'm using it mainly to get all the grime off. Normally, this will help shine up any pieces that I have, but these handles were meant to have this black kind of patina look to them, so they didn't get shiny, and I opted to go for a flat black spray paint. So what I need to do is create a little bit of a tooth on there so that the paint grips really nicely. So I'm just gonna give it a little sand before I spray paint these. Now I know this looks interesting, but basically I'm just having the handles stay upright so they're not touching the back plate while I'm spraying them. Sometimes you gotta rig some stuff so that it's easier for you in the end. Now it's time to work on the drawers. I'm gonna give it a light sanding just to get them prepped for the pre-stain conditioner that I'm going to put on them. And I'll follow that up with just dusting them off with a damp, lint-free cloth. This pre-stain conditioner is going to ensure that when I go to put the actual stain on, it's going to be as even as possible. This particular Varathane pre-stain conditioner is meant to be used with oil-based stains, so you want to make sure that when you're using these products, you are reading the labels, because sometimes water-based products don't like oil-based products, so we're going to have to make sure that we're getting the right type of conditioners or stains or paints and top coats. Once my pre-stain conditioner has set and I'm ready to apply my stain. I'm using a tack cloth just to get all the little dust nubs or debris off of my piece before I put the actual stain on. And I'll be using this Thing wood stain in the color Black Cherry. And I'm just going to give it a nice little stir. I'll be applying this stain with a foam brush. I like to use foam brushes or even sponges to apply stain. It tends to go on evenly. You can use whatever you're most comfortable with as long as it's lint free. That's going to save you a lot of work in the end with sanding in between coats or in between staining and your top coat. I like to get a nice even coat all the way before I grab a lint-free cloth and start wiping back the extra stain. And then just go with the grain when you're wiping it back. And if you need to deepen the color, you can always wait a little bit and then reapply a second coat. But in this case, the color intensity is just the way that I was hoping it would be. So just getting it nice and smoothed out there. For the top coat on this one, I chose to go with the Watco Wipe On Poly. I hadn't really used it before then, and I chose to wipe it on with a foam brush here, which now that I've used it a couple more times after this project, I learned that it's best to actually wipe it on with a lint-free cloth in very thin layers. So as you'll see, I kind of just have to go back and do really thin layers with this foam brush to get a really good coat. So the flat was a little too flat black for me, so I'm going in with a glossy top coat for the handles. And I'm glad I did because in the end you'll see it looks so much better with a little bit of shine to them versus how matte they were before. And this is the final step before I put everything together. Let's take a look at the before on this cubicle desk situation that we've transformed into this. Thank you for watching me fix this cubicle desk into a sewing desk for my mom. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next furniture fix.